Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you all for coming. Mute that so we don't get feedback. So thank you all of you who are here. I'm so excited. We have such a packed room. For those of you who are joining us remotely, can't, oh, okay. There we go. Okay. Now can you hear me? No? Okay. All right. We good? Okay. So, those of you who are joining us remotely, yes, good, you can hear me. Those of you who are here, awesome. Thanks for bearing with us. Let me get started with the PowerPoint here so everybody online can see. All right. So, we are here today for our Data Wednesday session, the fourth Wednesday of every month at noon. And this is my last Data Wednesday session here at UCLA. You'll meet the person who's going to be taking over after I leave at the end of this week. But we're going to be talking today about Evernote, which is a sort of multi-purpose tool that you can run on your computer, on your mobile device, on the web. And I found out about 5 minutes before the class started today that our application on the desktop is not working. So you will have the desktop application on your computer if you're using one of our computers. And if you have it installed on one of your own computers, of course, you'll be able to see it. I will not be able to demo that, but everything that I'll show you on the web version is the same as how it looks on the desktop version. So you'll still get a sense of how it works and what you can do with it. So we're going to talk about that. By the way, I don't think I said I'm Lisa Federer, Research Informationist here at the Biomedical Library. So I did mention for those of you that are in the chat window or in the webinar, I can't see the chat window. So if you have questions, you can type them in there, but I'll answer them at the end. Those of you that are here in person, feel free to ask a question at any time. All right, so today, what are we going to talk about? First of all, what is Evernote? We'll talk about ways to create and access your notes, which is what they call the documents or the information in Evernote. Organizing your information with tags and notebooks, so some various different ways you can organize your stuff to get to it a little more easily. Converting physical documents into digitized, searchable documents. So this is really cool. You can take a picture with your iPhone or mobile device or iPad of a printed document, and then it becomes something that is stored in your Evernote and is searchable, which is very cool. We'll talk about using the web clipper to save information from websites. So it's a simple one-click button that then you pull everything into a note. How to share documents with others. So there's a lot of sort of collaborative stuff you can do with Evernote. And then there are some add-ons that you can also get that are apps that work with Evernote. And we'll talk about some other ideas about how you can use this. And then, of course, we'll have time for your questions. So first of all, what is it? It is, as I said, a desktop application. Here's a screenshot of what that looks like. It is both Mac and Windows friendly. So whatever operating system you're using, well, of those two, you can download the version for your computer. It is a web application. It's compatible with most up-to-date browsers. So, oh, okay. Sorry, I'm being told we need to turn down the lights. So it's a web application that is compatible with most up-to-date browsers. So you can access your notes, say from the internet, even if you made the notes at home. You can log in from wherever you are. You can add stuff from wherever you are. And it is also a mobile app. It works with most major mobile devices. It works for iOS devices. It works for Android and a bunch of other ones. So Nook, Kindle, whatever you're using, there's probably an app that goes with your device. So again, you can access and create your notes wherever you are. And then all of these different ways of accessing it, you can sync your information so that your notes go with you wherever you are. So how much does it cost? Of course, that's the big question. There are two different versions of this. There is the free version. It has pretty much the same functionality as the paid version. The main differences are when we look at sharing notes, the free version, you can share notes so that they're viewable by other people. But if you want other people to actually be able to edit the notes that you're sharing with them, you have to have the paid version for that. The storage space is unlimited for all of the accounts, whether it's free or premium, but there are limits on how many uploads you can make per month. So when you add new information, that counts as an upload. When you update a note, that counts as an upload. So you're limited to 60 megs per month for a free account, and it starts at 1 gig for paid accounts and goes up if you need additional storage space. There are also limits on the number of tags you can have. So in the list of tags that we'll look at in a second, like the descriptors that you can use for items, those are limited in the free version, as well as the number of total notes you can have, and a couple of other limits like how many notebooks you can have. But the limits are pretty high. I think for most people, the free version is adequate in terms of storage. I think the one place where you might run into some difficulty is if you are wanting to have people edit shared notebooks. But there are those premium versions that are available, and pricing information is on the web if you're interested in any of that. So let's talk about actually getting started, sort of the basics of how we create our notes and organize our information once it's in Evernote. So the sort of basic functions that we'll talk about here. By the way, hopefully you picked up a handout at the front. The purple one is sort of a checklist of what we're going to go through, and there's spots for you to write notes if you want. You'll also find, you may have already seen the email that I sent to, well, I didn't send it, but Evernote sent to you in the email address that you used to register for the class. You got a sharing invitation to a shared notebook in one of my accounts, and so this file as well as the blue sheet. And I think those slides are also in that folder, so you can download it and practice using Evernote. So we're going to talk about, well, we're not going to talk about creating a note using the desktop interface because I don't have that available at the moment. But we'll talk about creating a note using the web interface, and it works pretty much the same. We'll look at syncing notes to make sure you're seeing the latest information wherever you are. So if you've created a note on your home computer, how do we make sure we're seeing the latest version when we're on the web or on our mobile device? We'll look at two ways of organizing notes, which is to organize things into different notebooks and to use tags to tag notes. So let me get out of PowerPoint here and get over to, let's pause that, and we will, what we're going to do is share the entire desktop. Okay. So I'm going to pop on over into the web and go to evernote.com. And when you get to the website, you'll see there's this sign-in link. If you already have an account, you'll sign in here. If you don't have one, you can sign up for one here. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into my account. And what I'm going to see, this is a brand new account with nothing in it. So you'll see that I have just the note from Evernote about how to get started. So what I want to do now is I want to create a new note for myself. So the version of what you'll see on the web is always going to look the same. You're going to see something very similar to this if you're using the desktop application. There's some slight differences in the layout of how it is in the Mac version versus the Windows version and how it looks here. But essentially all of it, you're going to look for, you know, the sort of the same general area and the same terminology is used across the board. So what we want to do is to create a new note. And what this will do is, hopefully, I'm going to be so mad if this doesn't work. My last Data Wednesday session and the technology is not working. That is awesome. Okay, so inexplicably, we can't create a new note, but you would see a box pop up, and essentially your notes look just like this. They have you know, text, they can have pictures, and you can access all of your stuff here. Let me sign into a different account that already has some notes in it. And then we can at least see how these notes look and how it'll look when you're editing one. For real? Come on. Don't allow the not working of this to dissuade you from using Evernote. This is like a 10-year-old computer. It's the computer's fault. It's not the system's fault. Okay, please work. Yay, this is a good sign. Okay, so when you have your notes, we will see that, for example, we have stuff here, and your note just looks like essentially like a little document. You can type text, you can you know, format that text, change fonts, you can change the size. So pretty much anything that you could do like in a Word doc, you can do here in a note. And then when we save this, we'll be able to see it across the board on any of our devices. To sync in the web version, so like let's say I edited my note in the desktop and I wanted to make sure I'm seeing the most current version here in the web, I can simply click the reload button. We'll also see as you're editing stuff that it is going to tell you whether it has updated that. So this little check mark that says saved now tells me that my note has automatically been saved. So when you're using the desktop version, it automatically syncs, I believe, every 15 minutes. You can change the setting on that if you wanted to do it every hour, every 30 minutes. I think 15 is the most frequent it can do the automatic sync for you. But you can also sync at any time. There's a little button like around this sort of general area of the screen in the desktop application that will allow you to sync at that time. So then once you sync, that sends the changes to the server. All of your stuff is then stored and updated remotely. So any questions about creating notes? Yeah?
How did you make it so that it's the to-do list that you can...
Okay, so the question was, how did I get the little check boxes on my to-do list? There is, I believe, under this More button here. Oh no, it's not in that. It may not be an option in the web version. In the desktop application, right about here, there's a little thing that looks kind of like this. It has more options, and one of them is to insert a little checkbox. So yeah, so that makes it kind of nice to be able to check off what you're doing. Other questions about creating a note? Any questions in the chat window, Vesla? Are you in there and you can see? Okay, awesome. All right. By the way, webinar people, hi, come on in. We do now have somebody monitoring the chat window, so if you do have questions, you can type them into the chat box. All right, so we've created a note, and now what we want to do is to be able to make this a little bit easier to find. So as you can see, I have a lot of notes. I have 32 notes total in my account, and I want to be able to get to these notes and find them a little bit more easily. And the way that we can do that is by sorting them into notebooks. So we can, under our notebooks, create a new notebook, and you will also see this again in your desktop version. And we'll name our notebook. So I'll just call this new notebook. And when I save that, now my notebook is here, and I can drag my note into this notebook. And now if I click on my new notebook, I will see just this note that I dragged in. Notes can exist in more than one notebook. So, oh, just kidding, I guess they can't. I thought they could, I was wrong. So that is not true. So they can have more than one tag if you need to sort them that way, but you can put them in a single notebook. So like for example, for me, I have what they call a notebook stack. So you can have a set of related notebooks, and I have my work stack, and then within that stack, I have separate notebooks for like the different committees that I'm on, the different organizations I'm involved in, and then within those, I have these different notes. So the other way that you can sort or sort of organize your stuff is by using tags. So for example, if I scroll down to the bottom of my list, here's a list of all the tags that I have used so far to add information to notes. So if I click on one, I can see that one note, let's see one that has more than one note. So like I have 4 notes for this research workshop that I did. Here they all are. And if I click on a note, it should load. Let's try clicking on this note. All right, so it should load, and you would see the tags in the notebook window that had been assigned. You can also search for a tag. So like let's say I want to find everything that's been tagged with the workshop tag. I can hit search in the search box, and there are all of my notes. And I'm not sure why it's not loading, but it should load the note in the right-hand window where this note is currently loaded. Let's see if I can. Well, so you can see the tag here that this one has, the to-do tag, and we can add additional tags if we want. So we could add like test, and now we can add multiple tags to a note so that you can then go back and find the information that way. So a note can have many tags. It belongs in one notebook, but there are these different ways of organizing and finding your information again. So any questions about the organization of notes? Yeah?
So you emailed us a link to the shared.
Yes.
How do I save that shared notebook into my account?
That's a good question that I will get to in a second. So the question was about the shared notebooks and how do you save that notebook into an account, and I'll get to that in a minute when we talk about sharing.
I missed that part about getting a new notebook. I only have one notebook.
Okay, yeah, so the new notebooks, if you want to start a new one, there's this little drop-down arrow box guy on notebooks, and new notebook is the option there. I believe you can also right-click this on notebook, and that option shows up. Everyone good? Okay,
So
yeah.
basically, you can have a lot of notebooks with different notes in them.
Right, so you can have several notebooks with different notes in them. So each note can only belong in one notebook, just like an actual, if you have a written note, it can only be in one notebook. But notes can have many different tags. Is everyone good so far with that? Question in the?
Tip from the audience, Control N is supposed to work too.
Okay, so Control N will also create a new notebook. Thank you for that, yes.
And can I delete a notebook?
You can delete a notebook. Let me get back to my notebooks here. So if I decide that I want to delete this new notebook, I can also rename it. I can also, at this point, I'll talk in a second about sharing it, and we can also then add it to a stack. I had mentioned that I have my work stack. We can create a new stack, like I could create the personal stack, and then this will get added to that subfolder. I'm sorry? I don't think that is an option. I'm sorry that the writing is so small. But the video of this, by the way, is going to be on the web later, so you can refer back to it. I apologize that the writing is small for those of you in the back. So anyway, so when we're on a notebook, either right-clicking on it or clicking the little down arrow dealie will let you edit, delete, whatever, that notebook. So I'll go ahead and delete this notebook I created. It is permanent. Don't delete anything you still want. Question?
What was the difference between a new note and a new ink note?
And there's all these different kinds of notes. So you'll see when, I don't think it's an option in the web version, but if you're on the desktop application, you'll see there are different options for types of notes you can create. You'll also see in the mobile version, there are some even different options. So there are all different kinds of notes. A new note is just a note that you type into like a Word document. An ink note is one where you can draw. I don't know if I have one in here, but I thought I did. Like you can draw on it, like it has like different options for different like colored pens and stuff. So like basically if you wanted to draw and create, I think this might be one. Of course I can't load it, but if you wanted to like create pictures, you could do that. You'll see also, here's one that's an audio reminder. If you have the mobile version installed on your phone and you have a microphone in your phone, you can tell it that you want to do an audio note and it'll record your audio. So there are these different types of notes that you can play with. Yes?
Have you tested the process of taking notes via white lines or the new Moleskine Evernote notebooks to upload handwritten notes in Evernote?
Okay, yeah, so the question was about handwritten notes, which is something that I was going to get to in a second. I want to see if I can get this note to load. So what we're sort of merging into the next part of the presentation here. So I will mention that there is this Moleskine notebook that you can use that sort of works with Evernote. You'll see it for sale and it has like Evernote tagged on it. It's a regular notebook. There's nothing special about the notebook itself. You can do this with any piece of paper. The thing that is different about the Moleskine notebook is it comes with these little stickers that you can use to create automatic tags. So basically, like I would write in my notebook, and you can put like say a yellow sticker on there, and when you photograph that with your camera on your phone, it will know that yellow sticker equals the tag work or whatever. So the only benefit that I'm aware of with that notebook is that you can automatically tag stuff. But the really cool thing, oh, go ahead, was there another question?
Is there a size limit on audio notes?
There's not a size limit on audio notes as far as I'm aware. There is like that upload limit, so if you upload a really big file, you're going to be cutting into your monthly upload limit. But as far as I'm aware, there's no limit on size of any note. Any other questions so far? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going backwards.
No, it's okay.
When you were talking about syncing on the web version,
Uh-huh.
I understand that it automatically does it, but let's say, I need to walk away right now and I just want to sync it real quick. Where do I go to do that?
So when you're in a note, let me try logging into this again and see if that will work so I can actually get to a note again. That same place where it was saying save, you can click there, I believe, and like force it to save at that time. Okay. Oh, I'm still logged in. Okay, so let me see if I can get a note to load here. No, you can only see my info about my move. Okay, there we go. So since we didn't make any changes, whoops. When we make a change, it should load that thing here. I think it's because this computer is so slow and it's having a little trouble because it's running a webinar and doing all of this at once. But you should be able to save it by clicking there should be a little, that same place where we saw the save before.
For the check mark?
Yeah, that check mark, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just did it. Okay.
Okay.
Cool, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, so the next part that I was going to talk about was, let me see if I can now load these notes. So let me get back here. Let's see if this is going to work. Please work. So what I'm trying to get to load here is I took a snapshot from my phone of a page of written notes that I had written in a notebook. Let me just close this and come in again, and I think that will allow us to load it. So if you take an image of anything that has written notes on it, it will upload that as a file to your Evernote notebook. And then what it also does is when you upload it, it will recognize if there's text, and it runs it through optical character recognition. And even if it's handwriting, as long as it's not like too crazy of handwriting, it will pull out the text for that, and then that becomes searchable text. So when I have my folder here and I get to my notes, yay, there it is. So I think I can expand this out. So you can see that I have like this handwritten note stuff that I've done here. And one of the things that I was writing about in here is rare variants in genetics. So if I do a search for whoops, gotta spell it right though. So if I do a search for rare variant, it knows that that was written in this note, and it's also highlighted it everywhere that I wrote it. And you can see that like I don't have the neatest of handwriting, and it still managed to actually like find all those places that I had written rare variant. And you can see that it's not perfect. Like I did write rare there, and it didn't catch it. But this is really nice if you have like something like say a paper lab notebook that you kind of want to digitize. Now this would be searchable if you put it into Evernote. A caveat with that is that this is a web cloud service. Anything that is really very private, I would not recommend that you put it here. Anything that has patient information that's confidential, I would definitely not put it here, not HIPAA compliant. But this is password protected, so if you have something that you are wanting to store and you're okay with storing it on the web, this is an interesting option for some different places to put your stuff in and to make it a little bit easier to interact with your data. Yeah?
So does it search by exact phrase?
Does it search by exact phrase? It'll search by whatever I type in. So like I don't think, like, do you mean like, do I have to, like if I put in rare variant, it'll only find that exact phrase of rare variant? No, because I think it matches any word. So like here where it just found variant, or here where I just had variant, it found it. So I think it looks for, at least within the document, it looks for any of the words rather than an exact phrase search, yeah.
Is there a way to search that?
I haven't tried it. Let's see if normally the way that you would do a phrase search is by, putting quotation marks around something. Let's see if that does it. Apparently not. So I think you cannot do phrase searching, but still, it's kind of nice to have the option of searching handwritten notes, and obviously you wouldn't be able to do that if they were still handwritten. Yeah?
How did you get that synced in there, your notebook?
So the way that I got my notebook into this was that I took a picture. I have the app on my iPhone, and you basically just there's a spot where you can create, it says to take a photograph, and it'll show you on the screen how to line up your document. And you basically just stand over it, take a little picture, and then it uploads it. You can also add different types of multimedia files to notes. I don't believe you can do it in the web version, but in the desktop version, you can drag anything into a note. So for example, I believe in my shared folder that I have shared with you, I have something here that is a PDF. So I drag this in, and we can't view it in our note here, but the file is here, so we could download it. Since I'm sharing this with you, you also will be able to see this file. So another option for some file sharing if you're working between different groups. And so any PDFs that you upload will also go through that optical character recognition process and become part of that search. The process of actually scanning the document can take a little bit of time. It's done on their server side, so I've had it come really quickly, it'll only take a couple minutes, and then it's OCR'd and I can search for it. Other times it can take up to 24 hours for it actually to go through the process. So your note will be added automatically, but it may not be searchable right away. You're not going to get any sort of notification or anything when it's ready. It'll just be searchable and be there when it's done. Any other questions so far? Yeah.
So something like your checklist, did you create that in Word or in Evernote?
This Evernote class checklist, I created this in Evernote actually. So I actually kind of pasted from Word, but to get the actual checkboxes, I had to add that in Evernote. It won't recognize that from Word, but like the stuff with the tables and everything, I just pasted that from Word. But you could do the same thing here.
If you wanted to, I guess, download this document, could you download it as a Word document?
You know, I don't believe you can do that. It does not. So the question was, can you, like, once you have this, can you download this as a Word document? There are options to export notes, like if I wanted to export this note and say email the note to you or something, but it's not like interoperable with Word in the sense that you can save something as a Word file. It exists as a note. So, you know, it's still text that you could like copy and paste into Word, but this formatted, like you can't save it as a Word file. Other questions? Okay, so the next part that I wanted to talk about, let me get back to, we already went over that stuff, so I'll skip that. Sharing. Collaborating, using this for collaborative sharing of documents and information. So we'll talk about how to share a notebook with an individual, whether they have an Evernote account or not. So you can share this with somebody even if they're not signed up for Evernote. Sharing happens on the notebook level, not on the individual note level. So you can't, well, you can do what I said, which is to export a note and email it. But if you want to share something, that is shared at the notebook level. And then, so you can share with a specific person, as I'll show you. You can also create a public sharing link, which creates a URL that you can mail to anybody. So, let me get back over here. So we have this shared folder that I've already shared. So let's take a look at this other folder. And when we right click it or click on that little caret that drops down, that one's already shared too. Let me pick something that's not shared yet. That one's also shared. So it would say, you know, instead of saying modify sharing, it would just say share. But let me see if we can get this to work. Of course not. So, darn. Seems to be a problem with pop-up windows that it won't let me pop anything up. All right, so I will tell you what you would see, which is that you have the option of doing, entering the information of an actual email address that will allow you to share something. Do you have a suggestion? See if you can get it to work. So you can enter an email address. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person, like I said, that is registered with Evernote. It can be anyone. And that person will get an email that, oh, see, the pop-up blocker is not on. I think it's a problem with, I think it's just a problem with the computer. So you'll get an email that says, hey, you've been invited to share. And then you can click on that, and that will load the notes. So let me show you how that looks. You guys probably already saw because you got an email in which I was sharing a document with you. But, okay, yes, that's fine. No thanks. So you'll get the email that says you're invited now to share this notebook. And you'll have the info, here's what the notebook is, and then you have to click Open Shared Notebook. You do have to go through this email to actually get access to this notebook. So if you share it with somebody, it's not going to automatically show up in their Evernote window, even if they have an account. They have to go through this, this email to join the notebook. So you'll have the option to join the, notebook or to just view the notebook. So if you don't have an account, you can still view the notebook. If you do have an account, you can join the notebook, and then it will get added. I think since I'm already logged in 2 different accounts here, let me log out of this and log into this other account so I can show you what that will look like when you actually accept it. Okay, let me sign out here as well. So once you've accepted notes, as you will probably see if you accepted my notebook, there will be a new area in your notebook list that says shared notebooks, and any notebooks that have been shared with you will show up there. So let me get into my other account here. I have like 10 different Evernote accounts for doing all these different demos with different things. So it'll show up in your shared notebook list. Let's see where it is. Question?
Yeah, does that count against your 60 megs?
So it's not, it doesn't count against, because it's not storage space that you get as 60 megs, but whenever I download any information from this, that counts as part of the transfer. So if I download this notebook, then that counts against my 60 megs for the month, yeah. Was there another question in the back?
Yes, for some reason when I clicked on your shared folder through the email, it opened a new tab for me in my browser. It didn't go to my Evernote account that I have open.
Okay, so the question was, when you open the shared link in your email, it will open a new tab instead of going directly into the account. It does open a new tab, but if you are logged in one tab, you should still be logged in the other tab, and then once you join the notebook, it'll get added to your list. Like, it doesn't know that you're logged in another tab, so it'll just pop open another one, but it's all the same account, or it should be.
It's not showing up in my list of notebooks though, so.
You might have to reload it after you have,
I just did that. It's still on its, like in the other tab, and it won't show in my.
Okay, I'll help you in a second. It sounds like just a weird, quirky thing, but question in the chat window?
Yeah, do we get a credit against our 60 megabytes if we delete info that we had previously added?
Good question. So does it count against you for your monthly transfer if you delete something? I don't think so, because you're not really, I think it's transferring info up, not deleting anything, so I don't believe that would count against you. Oh, do you get it credited back? No, so again, it's not, the 60 meg limit is not a storage limit, it's a transfer limit. So it doesn't matter how much you have saved. You could, over the course of 12 months, store, thousands of megs of information, and that's fine. It's just the downloading and uploading of information can only be 60 megs a month. Does that hopefully answer the question? Any other questions so far? Okay, so I was showing you that I have my notebooks here, and then I have my joined notebooks, the ones that have been shared with me that I have joined down here. And here's the shared folder that was not found. That is the folder that we were looking at earlier that I shared with you. I also shared it with this account. And so maybe this is the question that you had. It's opening in a new tab. I guess it won't allow you to open that shared notebook in the same folder as, or in the same window that we were opening it in before. Yeah. So, so once this folder has been shared with me, I can also leave this folder if I decide not to. I don't believe it's an option on the web, but if you're in the desktop version, you can also copy this folder to your notebook list. So then, like say I wanted to save this stuff, I could copy that into my notebook. Any changes that this person makes, I won't see anymore in my local version of it because it's no longer a shared notebook, it's just a notebook that I've copied. But if I wanted to just like get these documents and put it in my notebook, I could do that. Any questions about any of that? Yes? Can you add notes to a shared notebook? So if you are the owner of the notebook, yes, you can add notes and anybody who you're sharing with can see it. If you are a person who is viewing a shared notebook, like all of you are doing with this notebook that I shared with you, you cannot. That is one of the features that comes with the premium version. So I only have the free version. If I had the premium version, I would have the choice to give you the option to edit as well as view. But that, again, is one of those premium options. So you can't unless you have paid.
But can you add like comments or your own notes?
Nope. You cannot add anything. I mean, like I said, you can save a copy of the notebook to your local files, and it becomes a copy of that in your notebook, but those changes won't go to the person that shared it with you originally. There's no back and forth sharing unless you have the premium account.
Oh, but if you don't want to share with the person, you just want to like have stickies.
Oh yeah, so if you don't care about sharing it, yeah, you can just save a copy and then you can do, edit it just as you would edit any of your other notes, yeah.
To have 2 copies, the shared one and the
You would still, so you wouldn't exactly have 2 copies. You would still have, the shared one would still be, it's like if I share something with you, I still have my copy and it's still shared with you, unless you decide to leave the sharing, which was that option that I showed you. But you can make a copy and do, whatever you want with it. Those are 2 separate things. They're not tied together. Does that make sense? Okay. Was there a question?
Yeah, similar topic. My web version says we can rename the notebook. Is that the same as copying?
Oh, that's a good point. So the web version says that you can rename a shared notebook. That probably is the same thing as copying it. So if you rename it, that would save a version of it in your local. So let me try that and see. The desktop version I find is much easier to use. That's why some of this web stuff, I'm kind of like figuring it out for the first time. The web version is nice if you need to access stuff from somewhere where you don't have it installed, but really I do prefer the desktop version a lot. So if we rename, let's see if that actually saves it. Oh, I guess not. So I guess I can name it locally whatever I want, but that does not copy it to my notebook. So that is a function that I guess I believe you can only do in the desktop version. Other questions? Oh, a bunch of questions. All right, so how about in the back?
So I just went to try to rename it, and it didn't really give me an option to name it. But also, it cannot add to stack.
Okay, so the question was the stacks. So that was what I was showing you before. I don't have any stacks in this account, but the stacks are those sort of sets of notebooks. So it's just another way to organize your notebooks. So if I add something to a stack, let's add this to a stack. I don't have any stacks here. Let's create a new stack, and that is DIY ideas. So I have now my article clippings folder is in the DIY ideas. Let's add the craft projects to the DIY ideas. You can just drag it in. Oh, yeah, it did just drag. So now I have, let's put my recipes in my DIY ideas. So now I have my stuff kind of organized even more. So I have my separate notebooks. We know that my crafts are one DIY idea, my recipes are another, but they're all DIY ideas. So another way to organize. Yep, exactly. Folders within a folder. Is there another question?
So then would you add notebooks to this or individual notes?
So notes go in a notebook, notebooks go in a stack.
Also, if you add a shared folder or a shared notebook to a stack, would that make a copy or would it just be?
So if you add a shared notebook to a stack, would that make a copy? You can't really add a shared notebook to a stack because it exists in basically it is its own stack of shared notebooks. But if you copied it, then you could add it to whatever stack you wanted. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll briefly mention, we're sort of getting to the end of our time here. We talked about sharing. There are some add-ons that you can get that are not at all related to data, but I just think they're kind of interesting, so I'll point them out. There's this thing called Evernote Hello, which is an app that manages your people and your contacts. So you can if you are like me and you forget everybody's name, you can put them in your Evernote Hello, and it will keep track of I saw them at this meeting at this location. So you can kind of what do they call it? Contact management. Evernote Food is for those of you who like to Instagram your meals. It can allow you to take pictures, and I'll show you in a second what it looks like. And it tags it with the place and the date that you had that meal, and you can also organize your recipes. Evernote Peak is kind of cool if you're a student, you're studying for something. You can make your notes essentially into flashcards, and you have to have this special little cover that goes with it. It's for the iPad. But when you lift up the cover, you see the question, and then you lift up the cover again to see the answer. So you can like kind of test yourself and see how you're doing. So in my Evernote, so this is what a note looks like from Evernote Food. So I was at my office, I named it Lunch in My Office, and I made a note about it, coffee and chapstick, yum. And then here's my Evernote Hello profile. So you can have like your info. It works with LinkedIn and Facebook also. So like if I was meeting somebody who is another Evernote Hello user, I could like send them my Evernote Hello profile, and then they would remember me and have me in there. So those are just some things that you can add on with as well. So questions. We've had a bunch, but are there any other questions that you guys have? Yes.
Do you have any insight on how to use Evernote to build a professional portfolio that you could share with potential employers?
Interesting question. So building a professional portfolio you could share with employers. Probably the best way to do that would be if you created a public link to share that, and then it would be a URL that you could then send to somebody. So you can add images, you can add text, and that would be, I think, a good way of doing that. Other questions? Yeah.
So once you sent me the shares, I'm just curious about toggling back and forth between the desktop application and the web version.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone invites you to a shared folder like you did,
Mm-hmm.
once I click on it and I join it via the web thing, I can just then go back to the desktop version.
Right. So the question was using shared notebooks between the web and the desktop version. So you always have to accept the invitation to share from the email link. So you're always going to do it in a browser. There's no mechanism by which you can add a shared folder within the desktop application or the mobile app. But once you have added that shared folder to you've joined that folder, it will show up in whatever application you're using. Yes.
I have OneNote as part of the Microsoft package. How does it compare to Evernote? Strengths, weaknesses.
OneNote as Microsoft package, I have never used it, so I cannot comment on it, unfortunately. Anyone ever used OneNote? Have any insights? No? So that user that typed that, why don't you try it out and let us know and get back to us. Other questions? Comment? Yes? Oh, okay. So while that comment is being typed, I will point out real quick the guide for the class, which will go out in email to you along with the slides, the handouts, if you didn't already pick them up. Oh, I see that I forgot to make it live, but there will be a link here that says Evernote, and it has the links to all the handouts that you got here. The slides will be up there. The video from the session will be here when it's available, and then there's like a quick link to a couple of different resources that are available. There's lots of help on Evernote's site. They also have this thing called, I think they call them Evernote ambassadors or something like that, who are people that are like expert users in certain areas. So there's like the Evernote photography ambassador, the Evernote food ambassador, and so they like write little blog posts, and they have forums about how to use Evernote to do particular things related to a certain activity. There's a couple education advisors. There's no data advisor, so maybe one of you would like to become that. Other questions? Oh, the comments, do we have it?
How would you compare Evernote to something like Pocket?
I also have not used Pocket, so I would not be able to compare it. Any other questions? Yes.
I also see that Evernote syncs with my Live Topics app. How useful would that be? Why wouldn't I just make a to-do list in Live Topics rather than one in Evernote and sync it there?
I'm also not familiar with that app, so I don't have an answer to that. But all these things are probably things that have been addressed on the Evernote forums, so that would be probably a good place to look for any sort of like comparison between products or using different apps in combination with Evernote. So any other questions? So, normally I would end the session saying if you have any other questions, contact me. I'm happy to help. But I'm not going to be here, so the other library staff is certainly happy to help. So if you have questions, I don't know that they are as familiar with Evernote as I am, but I'm sure they'd be happy to help. So let me quickly introduce our next session, or actually let me have Vesla come up and introduce our next session. So even though I'm leaving, Data Wednesdays is not going to end. So this is Vesla Ensberg, who is our research data curation analyst here, and she is going to take over Data Wednesday. So let me have her talk about what she's going to offer. Let me give you the mic so you'll be on video.
All right, hi everyone. So RedCap is a data and database management software. You'll find it particularly useful if you do research with human subjects, if your research includes generating and analyzing surveys, or if you do longitudinal studies. So if you measure the same variable over a period of time, let's say you have a mouse colony and you measure the change in weight of the mice. So the next session is going to be taught by Martin Lay, who is the RedCap coordinator for UCLA, and it's going to be held here on October 23rd, so the next Data Wednesday session.
Thank you. So I hope you guys will continue to come and see the great offerings that we have available for Data Wednesdays. So I dread to see what the feedback is going to be after all these technical problems, but there is a survey that has also been emailed to the account that you used to sign up for this class. Brief survey about an evaluation for the class. Also really helpful for us to have your feedback about what classes you would like to see offered after this. I'm sure Vesla especially will appreciate knowing what you would like to see offered for future Data Wednesday classes. So if you have a moment, fill that out. Yes? One last question from the chat.
You mentioned this session is being recorded. When can we access it?
Okay, so this session is being recorded. The screen capture should be available in a couple days. The full video, we have our awesome video guy here, will be available after that. I don't really know when, but the screen capture alone at least should be available in a couple days, and that will be on the website that I will email out to the email address that you used to register for this class. All right, well, thank you guys very much for coming. If you didn't get a handout, grab that. If you didn't sign in, please grab that, and have a good rest of your day.